Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you are all having a great day. We have a couple things to cover, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. Recently, Tim Draper, a venture capitalist and Bitcoin maximalist, gave his views on Bitcoin and what the future might hold in an interview with Breaker. Draper says that he's been a crackpot for entrepreneurs and that he believed and supported startups that no one actually thought would take off. Draper has been acknowledged in the cryptocurrency space for his bold predictions about Bitcoin, one of them being his prediction of Bitcoin's price, which according to him would hit $10,000 when it was trading for just $400. He was among the very few people who invested in Hotmail, Skype, and Tesla. During the interview, Tim Draper was bombarded with a lot of questions regarding his views on Bitcoin and his take on the future of Bitcoin. According to Draper, healthcare or pension has improved over the years, and it is not tied to any landmass. He also said the same holds good for cryptocurrencies. He said, and I do quote, "We finally got a currency, cryptocurrency, that finally pervades all countries, that is global, decentralized, open, completely transparent, and keeps a perfect record. Why would we ever go back to political currency when we can use Bitcoin for all other things?" End quote. He clarified his liking for Bitcoin, saying that with Bitcoin there are only 21 million coins and it will stay at that limit. However, he feels that with Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies, one can decide to print more coins if they choose to. He also added that he still likes other cryptocurrencies for what they bring to the table. Just going to stop for a quick second. Keep in mind that this was actually, he didn't exclude Ethereum from this. He wrapped Ethereum inside of this as well. I haven't had many major in-depth discussions with Bitcoin maximalists simply because when they figure out that I've even mentioned a liking for XRP or any other cryptocurrency, they tend to not want to discuss things with me. Totally understandable, I get it. One of my major arguments that I typically have for the entire thing, or rather the idea is from Bitcoin maximalists, is that they believe that because Bitcoin has the hard-coded 21 million coins inside of the program, and therefore no more can be created, that Bitcoin is indefinitely, empirically superior to every other cryptocurrency. And then I mention, what about coins that are hard capped? Like there are many other coins that are also hard capped. Bitcoin Cash is also hard capped. We had word from Vitalik Buterin before that even Ethereum could at some point be hard capped. He mentioned a couple of months ago about the prospects of Ethereum being hard capped at 120 million tokens. A lot of other crypto projects are exactly the same. I have my own views and ideas of what I think is going to happen or what could eventually happen, and I'm constantly surprised by the not by the attitude of Bitcoin maximalists, but exactly what they believe is going to happen with Bitcoin in particular, and that they think that every other cryptocurrency that we have right now will at some point completely fade away and we will only have Bitcoin. But I've also noticed a rift in the Bitcoin maximalists. We have a side of Bitcoin maximalists who believe that Bitcoin will be the everyday currency, the currency of the internet, that what we use to pay for every single thing in our lives. At some point over the next 10-15 years, Bitcoin will be integrated into everything. We will be able to pay for everything inside of our daily lives with Bitcoin, and that's not any other cryptocurrency. On the other side, we have Bitcoin maximalists who believe that that Bitcoin is now something that is just for the elite. And this is what kind of caught me off guard. Tim Draper is not one of these people. He is the everything Bitcoin guy. But I've been hearing a lot of ruffles the last couple of months from people who, and I mentioned once or twice before in another video, who believe that Bitcoin is and should remain expensive to use because the idea is that if you are smart enough to have gotten Bitcoin, one day when Bitcoin is potentially, according to these people, worth millions, it's almost like you should be lucky enough to have the honor to be able to pay Bitcoin's fees because of how slow that it is. If that kind of makes a lot of sense. Like I said, like there's definitely like a divergence happening between Bitcoin maximalists, where a lot of them believe that Bitcoin is going to be the everything, and a lot of them who believe that Bitcoin will reign on top. There will be other cryptocurrencies, but they just will not be as used, and only the elite will be able to use Bitcoin. Please tell me your ideas as to what you think about that. I try my darndest to remain as centered as possible when it comes to cryptocurrency discussion, simply because crypto is all over the place. We're still an extremely new market, almost said company, but not a company, space, if you will, that's trying to push against the traditional financial markets. And no one really knows exactly what's going to happen, but everyone has extremely wild predictions as to what they think the next 10 years or even the next 5 years are going to be like for cryptocurrencies. Regarding the adoption of Bitcoin, he said, I want to be able to set up a fund that's all Bitcoin, and I want the underlying companies to pay their suppliers and employees in Bitcoin. I want that because that can all happen without any accounting, and we can build in smart contracts for my investors so that when one of the companies gets bought, I can hit a button and it can immediately go into all their Bitcoin wallets, end quote. He strengthened his current prediction of $25,000 by referencing an example from the past. Draper said that people called his $10,000 prediction far-fetched when the price of Bitcoin was at a mere $180. He said, I'm assuming within the next year or so, keep that is 365 days from this very point of you hearing this. I'm assuming within the next year or so, we're going to make it so that everyone can buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin using their smartphones. I only make one prediction at a time, and mine is the $250,000 US dollar per Bitcoin. But I look at it a different way. One Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin, and other currencies, I guess that assumes other cryptocurrencies as well, will fall away against it. He says one Bitcoin will always be worth one Bitcoin because the number of Bitcoin will always remain capped at 21 million Bitcoin. Unlike other cryptocurrencies whose circulating supply can be increased, which is also not completely true. This is why I don't even want to put it out in the world that I want to have a discussion with a Bitcoin maximalist, because I feel like my views are probably already too different. I foresee a world where crypto definitely takes over. I don't think we're going to have a world where just one I don't have a time machine. I can't tell you. I don't think Bitcoin is going to be the only cryptocurrency. I can definitely see a world where we have at least 100 to 200 different cryptocurrencies floating around. I do think at some point fiat currencies are probably going to topple. I can definitely see a central bank digital currency, with an S at the end, being implemented and them not being terrible. I feel like at some point there will be a huge amount of countries who will bring up and start to use their own digital central bank digital whatever you want to call them, but I think they'll mimic it around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, in that there will be a hard cap, or that only a very small amount will be actually added into the ecosystem every single year. Like, it's not very hard to implement or to mimic a Bitcoin. This is why I get a lot of my confusion as to why people think that Bitcoin will be the only thing. I understand the idea right now is that Bitcoin has the name, got it. And that no one else can mimic what it does. It's very simple to make another blockchain right now that is run by a government that only has 3 to 5 transactions per second. I can only assume that the governmental one will be a little bit quicker. But circulating supply, like a lot of the other cryptocurrencies that we have right now that you're using, that you're buying or storing or whatever that you're investing in, a lot of them also have a hard cap, and the supply won't be increased. There's no plans to do that either. It's always just articles and discussions like this I find incredibly interesting, because it's not short-sightedness, but I wonder what caused these people to just follow Bitcoin when we have a number of other coins. Like I even inside the comment section, I see people on articles, on other in books. I see people talking about that we have so many other different cryptocurrencies that are a lot quicker than Bitcoin and are more efficient than Bitcoin. But I wonder what draws these people just to this coin. Like, if you believe in a world of crypto and the idea that crypto will take over everything, like it's kind of like you have the entire world to be able to travel on. What would keep you on your street and only on your street, thinking that your street is the best street and there will never be any other street that can match your street? You may there are other hotels and stuff like that may have infinity pools and so and gyms and stuff like that, but your street is the only street that matters because your street was built first. That's kind of how I feel like when I hear someone say things like this. Everyone has their own opinion about what the world is like, so yeah. let's move on. So Ethereum is in the news today. Efforts to scale Ethereum, the world's second largest blockchain, are growing more and more varied as one much anticipated solution encounters pitfalls amid its continued development. At the forefront of this transition has been Plasma, a concept widely heralded as Ethereum's best bet for short-term scaling. Already, researchers behind the tech have built 5 distinct versions of the protocol, but within these multiple iterations, there's evidence that work isn't proceeding as originally hoped. With little actionable code being put together well over a year since its inception. As Plasma slows, however, attention is being drawn to ZK Snarks, a form of cryptography pioneered by privacy-centric cryptocurrency known as Zcash, as another path forward. In fact, startups are already embracing the tech, which allows developers to aggregate transactions into batches as they look to scale the network amid other efforts to expand, upgrade, and grow Ethereum. For example, prediction market platform known as Gnosis, or Gnosis, I'm pretty sure it's Gnosis, is exploring the use of ZK Snarks to underpin a decentralized exchange in what is known as a snap or a snark dApp. Pseudo-anonymous developer Barry Whitehat has also used the technology to create Rollup, another snap that can potentially be applied to Ethereum scaling more broadly. Vitalik Buterin, Ethereum's creator, has written about the potential of such an approach, stating that it could be applied to achieve 500 transactions a second in the short term. That's notable because while progress towards Ethereum's long-term high-profile rewrite Serenity, sometimes called Shasper, I've never heard Shasper, in Ethereum 2.0, is continued to proceed, developers are hinting that switching is still 2 years away. Keep that in mind. As such, developers are looking to more immediate options to cope with an increase in number of users on the network. Okay, so the problem that we face right now is Plasma has been the thing that is supposed to make Ethereum faster, and the idea that it could take another 2 years is incredibly detrimental to the entirety of the Ethereum project. I mean, I'm not, like I've said many times, I'm not a coder, but I can only imagine what that feels like to have tried to make something, have different iterations of it, and none of them are proceeding as planned. Ethereum is a major cryptocurrency project, and I don't even mean just based on the price. There's a lot of support and a lot of money behind Ethereum, and I'm afraid of that leaving the project. I'm afraid of people not paying attention to the project simply because, you know, when you tell people since 2016 that you had something planned and something was going to come out, and now you're saying that it might not come out until 2020, that is within the same amount of time, the amount of other cryptocurrency projects that can be born and flourish and blossom and be used by other platforms there's a very high chance of that happening. We've only heard the information about them potentially adding ZK Snarks to the Ethereum platform. It has to be about a month and a half now. I'm pretty sure they've been working on it for a bit more time. As far as the time frame, it's been about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I would prefer, if nothing else, I feel like there's been such a massive amount of attention being put onto Plasma and these other like high-ranking, like scaling options and stuff like that. The same exact thing with Bitcoin, where we have Liquid and a Lightning Network. And these networks are reliant on other people around the world actually adopting them and flipping a switch and saying, yes, I will actually use these things. And this is why this is because we have decentralized platforms. We don't have a platform where someone can build on top of Bitcoin and Ethereum and then they turn a knob and everyone is automatically on it. You know, you have to agree. This is the same exact thing with the SegWit transactions. There's been an issue the last couple of weeks where not a lot of SegWit transactions have been happening on the Bitcoin network, and people are trying to figure out why. I would, like I said, prefer them to just take it slow. I think there's such a huge rush right now. Same as I think with Lightning. The full implementation of the Lightning network isn't expected for another 2 years. I would rather have something more immediate, and let's say Bitcoin being able to do 100 to 300 transactions per second, just something that can make the network more robust. A side chain, a second layer, 2.5 layer, 3 layer, 15th layer, whatever you want to call it. Just put something else on top of it so that it makes things a bit quicker. that a lot of people can join the network a lot quicker and faster transactions and stuff like that. Same exact thing with Ethereum. Like 500 transactions is not bad. Like going from 7 to 15 transactions per second to 500 is still very big. I don't have any of the articles in this video, but I actually realize right now that I probably should have had some of them. I'll try and do it in another video. The amount of money that's flowing around Ethereum and like a really interesting digital Shark Tank is massive. We've had like major banks talking about that they plan on using Ethereum. We have countries talking about that they plan on using Ethereum. The problem is that no one can use Ethereum if even CryptoKitties slows down the network. Like you can't have governments trying to build on top of your platform and they can't use it. You can't have major banks talking about that they're developing side chains and other things planning on using your platform, or having other people talking about that they're going to be using your platform exclusively for their apps and dApps and websites and other things that people can use on a daily basis, and doesn't really happen. So let's hope that, I am optimistically fearful for the future of Ethereum. I think that they shouldn't have taken this long. I think that there shouldn't have been so much emphasis on the million, or like Vitalik was talking about, like 100 million transactions per second. That's fabulously wonderful, but for as far as like real world use, I think even like 500 transactions per second would be a huge boost to the Ethereum world, economy, whatever you kind of want to call it. It's obvious that they're working on it, but we're slowly getting to that point that if the crypto market does at some point skyrocket, a lot of Ethereum may be left behind. Simply, I was going to say other coins, but there's so many other coins who are trying to take Ethereum's spot. Ethereum might be sluggish in the price movement, and I can definitely see us hitting the 1300 that we hit before with Ethereum. That would still be wonderful. But I think Ethereum has so much more to offer, and the attention has to be focused more on like go from 500 to 1500 to 3000, and then in 3 years, 2 years. When we already have 3,000, then activate Plasma, and that's when we can, do the hyper 100,000 transactions per second. Didn't mean to spend that much time on this. Ethereum is one of my favorite projects. I love what they're doing. I just think a lot of times people may get sidetracked and be a bit more ambitious than they actually need to be, especially because crypto is still relatively new. Righty, let's move on. Side note, I noticed that whenever I make videos and I talk like this, people always ask if I'm depressed, if I'm sad. No, to be truthful, I just woke up from a nap. For some reason, I have a thing where in order to feel at least slightly productive after I've woken up in some way, I have to make a video. Not that you needed to know that I took a nap, but I like to kind of get out there, put some news out after I just took a nap or just woke up. Anyway, not important at all. Let's move on. Paula da Silva, who is the head of transactions, the head of transaction services at SEB, a prominent Swedish bank, recently appeared on an interview to speak about the platform's continued use of Ripple's technology for settlement between Sweden and the United States. She also mentioned about all the customers of the banks are utilizing the technology for transfers. The news comes after their partnership with Ripple, which occurred late last year in November. At the time, the platform was set to be utilized for real-time transfers between the company's headquarters in Stockholm and New York. At the time of the launch, Da Silva stated, by using Ripple's distributed ledger financial technology, our customers can initiate real-time transfers between said bank accounts in Sweden and their branches in New York. Anymore. The bank's customers seemed to have been satisfied with the results, as Da Silva stated that all of the bank's clients were engaging in transactions using the platform. In an interview with the banker, she said, last year there was only one customer on it. Then, now we have all customers of SEB doing intra-trading transfers between Sweden and the US on Ripple platform. So we have a couple billion doing that. We are trying to understand how that goes and what we would need to happen to make it even better. She also stated that the bank would be exploring the next step of the partnership in the future, which may be a possibility of them utilizing XRapid, a technology which provides a substantial gain over their current usage of Xcurrent. She said, it's really exciting and our IT people are all over this. I think it's a good idea, so I'm happy that businesses and IT are collaborating on something new. I guess major speculation, but it's really interesting to, I don't know, I find it fascinating that this is kind of what I mean, because crypto is in a state right now where I didn't think we would be this far. I didn't think adoption would have. I assumed we still had another 5, 6, 7, 8 years to even get to this point where banks are actually using any type of cryptographic technology to be able to send funds back and forth. Like it seems unreal, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who kind of thinks that. It seems like something that we shouldn't have had for like another 5 or 6 years. It seems a bit out of the, not out of the question, but just something that, anyway, the point is, I guess speculation of them using XRapid. I don't think that the timing is weird. We've heard a lot of news about Ripple /XRP/XRapid over the last couple of weeks. I think this was the time frame that a lot of maybe the like the non-disclosure agreements maybe have not come to an end, but it's now, more people and banks and institutions can kind of open up about them, because we didn't have a lot of Ripple news for a couple of months. Like it was very sparse. Things were kind of thrown around. Brad Garlinghouse would be in the news and he would say something at an event and people would lose their minds. But now we have a lot more institutions and banks and corporations and stuff like that who are now announcing that they're actually using RippleNet or are partnered with RippleNet, and they're still testing it, or they're trying to go to the next level, or they're trying to do so and so. It's all very good. I can only assume, I'm going to say let's hope that we can see this adoption continue. I'm more than certain this is going to continue. This is only just the very beginning, and imagine where we're actually going to be in another 6 years if this is where we are right now. So this one is something that I expected for quite some time. A new report from Forrester Research states that some companies are stopping the use of the term blockchain because they think it is overhyped. This was said by business magazine Fortune on the 6th of November. In a report dubbed Predictions 2019 Distributed Ledger Technology, analysts purportedly found that companies have started to withdraw blockchain in favor of distributed ledger technology, or DLT. The study reportedly found that many firms are overhyping the usefulness of blockchain or using the name of the technology to repackage existing services, a practice the report describes as blockchain washing, because why not? The report also uses the term blockchain washing to refer to when networks that are live or under development very greatly and frequently lay key characteristics that may regard as essential components of a blockchain. The researchers said that for some, the mention of blockchain technology can also carry negative Wild West connotations associated with volatile cryptocurrencies. The report made some predictions regarding blockchain, suggesting a slowdown in its adoption or a so-called blockchain winter, noting that while the technology is making headway, it is still a cautious progress. They said on the tools and services side, we'll witness steady but cautious progress. Cautious because DLT hasn't proven to be significant, reliable revenue stream for software and service providers, and 2019 won't be any different. I'll work backwards on this. What we've seen over the last couple of months is that not even the non-usage of the word blockchain. And I mentioned this before in a video or two where we were talking about what is it called, MoneyGram and Western Union, and about how if you're using cryptocurrencies or a blockchain or distributed ledger technology, typically 99% of the time your fees will be significantly lower than they were in the existing world that we have right now, especially when it comes to bank transfers, especially when it comes to sending money around the world to your friends, families, or loved ones. The problem with that is, problem in quotation marks, is that while we benefit from it, the companies do not, and the companies do not care for that. The idea for them, I think for a lot of these companies, was that the introduction of blockchain would make their systems a lot more robust, a lot quicker, a lot better, safer, potentially more transparent, but it would not stop their revenue streams that they have. We've witnessed a lot of companies over the last couple of years who have been noting that they have had incredible amounts of profits, and they're constantly making 100 million more every single year. This company is worth $1 trillion, and this one is on their way to doing this, and they're so and so. With the introduction of a new service, typically what we've seen before in the past, if you were trying to, let's say before the introduction of Swift, and you were trying to get a check cashed, or even let's go to the early 1900s, you had to use a certain bank and things would take a very long time because this letter had to be sent to so and so and so. And even further before that, if you were in a country, many countries actually had different currencies within that one country. Everything has gotten less expensive. Things are a lot quicker. There's a lot less friction when trying to do things. And because a lot of companies around the world were throwing the word blockchain into everything that they did, interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys remember, there was one, it was called like blockchain iced tea or something like that, which was I think they sold iced tea and then they added the word blockchain, and I think their stock went up by like 40% or something like that. There were multiple companies that were doing similar things to that. And lo and behold, none of them were actually even using blockchain. They were just throwing blockchain into their name. Same exact thing with Kodak. I'm pretty sure it was Kodak. They were trying to, I think they added blockchain into their thing, or they were trying to launch a blockchain for if you took photos, you could put your photos on that blockchain. Like, blockchain isn't needed for everything. And this is one of the things that the world is finally waking up to. A lot of people, there are many uses for blockchain, but a lot of people assumed that blockchain had to go in everything. I don't know if you remember me saying that a couple of months ago. I said, I get the idea behind the hype, but the main focus of what Bitcoin was created for was to change the financial system that we have right now so that things got cheaper. There was a lot less friction. People had control over their own money, and in some cases more privacy over what they were spending or even like what they were buying and stuff like that. People just assumed that if you threw blockchain into your name or onto your systems, that you were then worth more. And that's not really the actual case. I think we're going to see first of all, we're going to see a huge slowdown in the use of the word blockchain. And I hope we also see it in the word distributed ledger technology as well. These are just keywords that people throw around at conventions to try and get other people to throw money at their company that probably shouldn't even exist in the first place. Cryptocurrencies, how do I say this? Nope, there's no real way to even formulate that sentence. I wish people just focused more on changing the financial world so that we had more control over our own money, as opposed to trying to figure out as a company how to have a more reliable revenue stream, because they realize that when they're using these things that are a lot quicker and cost a lot less, that's those savings have to then go on to us, and this is not something that they want. So this is why there are a lot of companies right now who are trying to make like private blockchains or private DLTs that go within themselves so that they can have a record of everything that's happening within the company. They can see exactly what's happening on the blockchain within themselves and maybe their other partners. But any type of payment service does not have to go through a blockchain or another cryptocurrency, simply because they don't want to lower their fees. They like making the amount of money that they're making, and this is probably going to happen for quite some time. And this also leads us back to this topic over here, like what happens then if, or when, according to these people, we have a world where cryptocurrencies dominate everything and everything can be paid in cryptocurrencies, or rather the cryptocurrencies that we have right now, not government-backed ones. And companies no longer have a choice but to offer the lower, more cost-effective saving option. Like, what happens to their profits then? Like, how many companies could we potentially lose around the world when it comes to like payment options and stuff like that, simply because they've been trying to price gouge people for so long, and when they're no longer needed, what then happens to their profits and to other companies' profits? Anyway, didn't mean to spend that much time on that, but let's move on. I'll breeze through this one a tiny bit. It's not super important, but it's something that's been spoken about for the last while. During a panel discussion, Katsu Kano, who is the head and CEO of Coin, I assume this has to be pronounced Coin. Her name is Linda Fang, co-founder of Lending Block, and Andrew Robinson, the head of institutional coverage, spoke about why the institutionalization of Bitcoin does not mean an end to Satoshi's vision. Katsu Kano started by stating that the beauty of cryptocurrency is the concept that underlines it, namely decentralization. He continued to say that Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin, which has principles embedded in it, and hoped that these would become mainstream in the financial currency. Kano further remarked that the institutionalization of Bitcoin was important as it increases the liquidity of the market, which is a key concept in the financial space. He also added that this would help stabilize the cryptocurrency market. The co-founder of Lending Block said that the point about his vision is that it changes. She continued to say that there is no way to look back at the reason behind why Satoshi wrote the paper 10 years ago. There was something that I read, first of all, for those who saw the last video, thumbs up to you, when I was talking about that Bitcoin maximalist and what he was saying. There are discrepancies now. There are a lot of people who are saying two things. that we should no longer be paying attention to the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper from 10 years ago, as it is outdated and archaic. And the other side of that is that as no one, as far as we know, has direct contact with Satoshi Nakamoto, the person and or the group, one cannot say what Satoshi would have wanted right now. That's the greatest way of saying it. I.e., Bitcoin was created in 2008, released in 2009 as a way to get away or circumvent exactly what's happening in the financial world, for Bitcoin to be its own entity, to get away from all the other things that the plague of problems that we had due to the financial crash. And therefore, Satoshi, as he or they are human, maybe their idea about the world would have changed. And I know that sounds a bit weird, but there's a huge shift right now, like I said, amongst Bitcoin maximalists as to what they think should be the future of Bitcoin. And this is why we have things like the Bitcoin Cash hard fork, and there's also going to be a hard fork of Bitcoin Cash as well, I think in the next week or so, because people have their own idea of what, anyway, Bitcoin is supposed to be about. This is what I find incredibly interesting, even just about the first portion right here. The idea that Bitcoin needs institutions because it helps increase liquidity. While true, if you spoke to a true Bitcoin maximalist when I first got into Bitcoin or even cryptocurrencies, they would have laughed their head off. The idea is that Bitcoin is supposed to be entirely separate from the financial world, and this is why I've mentioned before, and I think a lot of people didn't get it. I thought I was clear. Maybe I was talking in code and I didn't realize it. I mentioned before, and don't get upset at me, but you should be able to see exactly what I'm going to say right now. I mentioned many times before that people, especially at the beginning of the year and the end of 2017, were constantly so against XRP and Ripple, what have you, talking about how they couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand the Bankster coin. They couldn't stand that this coin was made for the banks, and they couldn't stand that so-and-so. Like, why would anyone want to use this? Because, and banks use this. And I noted many times, and I was like, there's only one real Bankster coin. I hate the term Bankster because it sounds like something from a kid's TV show. But there's only one coin that banks are really circling around right now. Like, while we may have a lot of institutions and banks who are in talks or are potentially using XRapid and therefore XRP, the golden child of all of this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has the futures. Bitcoin is going to have the ETF. Bitcoin has the derivatives. Bitcoin is going to have the mutual funds and the hedge funds floating around it. Bitcoin is going to be the head cryptocurrency of the New York Stock Exchange when they launch their exchange. The entire idea of Satoshi's vision, as someone, I wasn't there in 2009, but as someone who was there in 2012 or 13, Satoshi's vision is all but gone right now. We have people talking about that Satoshi's vision is still there, and that Bitcoin should be institutionalized and used by big banks in order to increase the liquidity of the market. While in some way I understand that this does make sense, I wonder what Satoshi would actually say about this. In that same podcast that I was listening to with the Bitcoin maximalist, the person was asking him, they said, do you think that Satoshi would be okay with all of this? And they were like, I have a feeling he probably would have some things to say about exactly where Bitcoin is going, because Bitcoin for a long time was on this straight and narrow path. It was incredibly centered. It was very focused. And the moment that Satoshi left Reddit and thus leaving us to our own devices, Bitcoin immediately almost started to change, because there were at least 5 different people, Craig Wright, the Winklevoss twins, that other guy who the Winklevoss twins are now suing, Roger Ver, and multiple other people who said that they all knew Satoshi and they all thought that Bitcoin should go in its own path. And this is kind of what we have right now. This really stood out to me simply because whether you want to believe it or not, whether you hate me, I can't really stop that. My goal is to just give you the daily happenings in the cryptocurrency space, and also give you my ideas of what's also happening in crypto. And it's not even difficult to find. You can Google all of the information. You can find old Reddit posts from Satoshi as to what Bitcoin is supposed to be, and the thought that Bitcoin is supposed to be merged into the banking system or used by people on Wall Street. is completely separate from what Bitcoin was created for. Bitcoin was created to be its own ecosystem away from banks. But to be real, and at this point, Bitcoin is heavily integrated into all these things. When you talk about the $250,000 to $1 million Bitcoin, it comes down to all of this. This is what I said before. I think a lot of people, not that they don't care about the original idea of Bitcoin. I think, and I mean, just we're all adults here. I think money overshadows that. The idea that imagine if Bitcoin existed completely outside of the banking system, completely outside of any point of governmental control, outside of, and like no integration, no what have you, everything. But Bitcoin's price would never go higher than $200. Would you still be interested in using Bitcoin in your everyday life? Or on the other side, are you, like many other people right now, comfortable with the New York Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges and other institutions creating these funds and these things like that for Bitcoin that could eventually lead us to a Bitcoin price of $1 million? Bitcoin's price was probably never going to hit $1 million without the institutional support, but it also goes against the very idea of why Bitcoin was created. Didn't mean to spend too much time, and it was like the 15th time I've said that in this video, and it's really true. These are very interesting topics, and sometimes I try to just touch on them, because a lot of times I don't want to make them their own video. Like, I don't want to just have a video where I'm just randomly, not even randomly rambling. I try to best convey my ideas and what's happening in the cryptocurrency space, I guess, through my own eyes. Everyone is going to have their own idea or decision or what they think is actually happening to Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin is without a doubt going to succeed. I mean, you can't have the amount of names and influence and money behind Bitcoin that we have right now, and all, this flurry of money that's buying Bitcoin over the counter and stuff like that, and not assume that Bitcoin is going to survive. I don't think that hundreds of millions of dollars would have poured into Bitcoin, probably over the market and also from retail investors over the last couple of years, and that it's all just going to simply just float away, and like, it's being integrated into some of the largest financial systems in the entire world. Like, it takes time for them to do that. I don't foresee a future where Bitcoin's price goes down and then we simply hear that the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ go, well, that was fun, like 9 months later. I think Bitcoin is definitely here for the long haul. I don't know exactly how much the price is going to go up to, but I personally think that Satoshi's purest vision of what Bitcoin was or should have been is completely wiped away. And I only hear this from a lot of the crypto, not even crypto maximalists, Bitcoin maximalists who were here at like the very beginning. And I guess that's where I get a lot of my concepts of what I think crypto is, or what Bitcoin is, or what Bitcoin should be. I guess because I got it from the very beginning. Like, there are a lot of people who are getting into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and blah, 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 altcoins and stuff right now, who have an entirely different idea of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency should be, or is going to be, or RB. No, RB is not a word. Anyway, I'll move on from this. I think it's incredibly fascinating, the idea, and even your idea of what you think Bitcoin is. In 10 years from now, when we have a number of other people who are trying to get into the cryptocurrency space and talking about Bitcoin's $1 million today, it's going to go up to 100 million. Your idea of what decentralization and what the cryptocurrency space is going to be dramatically different from theirs. And mine is only 5-6 years old. And yeah, let's move on. Last up, we have news about IOTA, and this is, I guess it's a result of the bear market. That's pretty much how I'll put it. This week, Car Vertical announced the release of their latest innovation, carvertical.city, an Internet of Things-centric application which incorporates IOTA's Tangle network for recording transaction data and parking information. According to the official website, the app will build on the autonomous driving experience that is currently being developed worldwide to include automatic parking systems that utilize GPS tracking and IOTA's DLT, see where blockchain's gone, DLT technology, even though they use a Tangle. Got it. They said, if the vehicle stops in the paid parking zone, carvertical.city automatically records parking start time, and price in the zone. When you drive away An app autonomously makes a new IOTA transaction, pointing that your parking is finished and defining the service's cost, end quote. The new strategic partnership with Car Vertical adds to IOTA's long line of working relationships with companies involved in the self-driving vehicle industry, including tech giants Volkswagen and Bosch. However, in spite of the project's ongoing work in this field, IOTA's token value has continued to struggle to attract significant bullish attention. Since the end of August, there's a little price chart, and they go on to talk about the wedges and blah, 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 blah. This is why I said this might all be a result of the bear market. I want the market to move so bad because I want to see what all these partnerships are going to add up to. The fact that IOTA has a partnership with Volkswagen and the coin has continuously gone down, and they're with Bosch, and those are just like two of the largest names. Like if you look at IOTA's actual partnerships, I think it's at least anywhere from 7 to 15. I can't give you an exact number off the top of my head. They have an enormous amount of partnerships with like major companies who are going to be using them. We also had news a couple of weeks ago. What was that other company? No, months ago. They're using it also for their self-driving vehicles, like when you're charging it and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's going to use the IOTA token. What's interesting about the wording here, and I am not able to clarify 100%, is that this part here says that they're going to use IOTA's Tango network for recording transactions. But when you drive away, an app makes a new IOTA transaction. Does that mean that they're going to just be using the IOTA Tango to record another transaction on top of it, or are they going to be using the IOTA token and create a new IOTA transaction, pointing that your parking is finished and defining the service's cost? If they are going to be using the IOTA token, it makes me wonder. I like I said, many years ago, not even many years ago, last year, I did not care for IOTA because they did not have any partnerships, but the amount of partnerships that they have right now, this is not financial advice, makes me believe that the token should be at least a couple of dollars. I think IOTA's high was like $1.40 or something like that. I don't have the pricing here. We have had such a long time with nothing but good news. I'm a bit fatigued, as I'm sure you all are, hearing about nonstop. It's very interesting to hear nothing but good news and have prices continuously slide down. Like I get technical analysis, like I honestly do. I get market cycles. I understand that prices have to go down, but even during a downtrend, and I'm not sure if this is just because of Bitcoin's heavy-handedness and maybe it's just weighing the entirety of the market down. It used to be impossible in 2017, or let's say December 31st, 2017. It was impossible any time before that to have a sentence of good news and not have your coin explode at least 15% value. I don't think that crypto has matured enough that we are actually in a hyper stabilized market, like many other people have been saying. A lot of people are talking about that they think that Bitcoin has matured, and therefore this is why the price is not moving, that the price is simply stable, and we may potentially in the future see increases of around 4 to 5% per month simply because of how stable the price is. I was going to curse. I don't think I think all that's incorrect. I don't know what I think anymore. At this point, I am hopeful, and I want to see exactly what effect this is going to have on the market when the market does eventually go up. Because, like I said before, we have lived in the past in a market where if you were mentioned by Forbes or something like that, your coin would go by 8%. And it wasn't even that the market wasn't as high as it was right now. Like the market was maybe like 1/10 of what it is right now. Like it's not even like it was a hyper dramatic difference. But you had news, and this is what kind of boosted the price of your coin, because there's still relative speculation, even though we have like actual partnerships going on right now. But what happens when the market moves up and people are going back through articles and we have 10 months worth of good news, and not just a day, not just a blip on an article, nothing but good news? What then? Like realistically, the market should be a lot quicker, or rather farther than it is right now. And I feel like it's just being held back so that you know exactly who I mean when I say they, so that they can accumulate as much as possible, so that they can get richer when the market does go up. I mean, this is all plausible. It has to be the only thing right now, because Even from a normal retailer standpoint, that's me, you, normal people putting in money into the market. People are still buying cryptocurrencies, but the prices are still going down. Like, it's not like everyone, like, crypto isn't like this thing that's only prevalent in your city or your country. Like, it's happening worldwide right now. Like, when the US may have a bad day when it comes to cryptocurrencies, the rest of the world is still alive and ticking. The same exact thing in Europe. Like, we may have a bad whatever. Japan and South Korea are still buying. There's there was some article, I think it's like 1 out of every 7 young people or something like that in Asian countries either owns cryptocurrencies or say that they plan on buying cryptocurrencies. The market has to move at some point. And when it does, I hope that it takes into account all of the amazing news that we've had over the last year at this point. It's already November, my gosh. Because realistically, with the good news from Bitcoin alone, Bitcoin should at least, if we got to 20,000 last year, Bitcoin should at least be $42,317.29. IOTA should be at least $5. XRP should be at least $10. Ethereum should be at least back to $1,300, if not $1,800. But as you can see, the market is still in a slump. Didn't mean to end it on a down note. I really did not. I guess I got lost in the words in this self. Imagine if cars look like this. I feel like this would be more distracting than anything. If you have a self-driving car, like what if you're, anyway, fine, I'll say it. You've all seen the movies like with the self-driving cars and stuff like that, and they all have all this stuff. Like what is all of this? If the car is self-driving, do we need to see this? Does this have to be on the screen? I feel like this, like the windshield would be more of like a TV than anything. Like I feel like an image of my brain and the car and of a mini-me. I feel like that doesn't have to be anywhere on the screen. Right. I'm going to end the video now. I hope you all have a great day, morning, afternoon, and or evening. Wherever you are, wherever you might be, I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you once again for watching and or listening. I do appreciate all the support. Thank you once again as well for the donations. I am continuously shocked every time I get any donation, and that's not me telling you to donate to me. That's like really like a thank you. I don't expect them, and when they are there, they're always massive. You guys and gals are absolutely wonderful. Thank you once again for watching and or listening. Thank you for all the support, and I'll talk to you all soon. See you.